Imagine opening your laptop, right? And instead of a screen that's just completely cluttered with a grid of icons, you're looking at a perfectly blank desktop.
Just completely empty?
Yeah, completely empty. You don't reach for the mouse. You don't, click to open a web browser. You just sit there and say, audit last month's marketing spend, cross-reference it with our regional Salesforce data, and draft an email to the board summarizing the discrepancy.
And that's it. You just give the command.
Right. And then you simply walk away. You go get a coffee. You take a walk. 5 minutes later, you come back, and it is just done.
Like magic.
Exactly like magic. The
Yep.
data is pulled, the spreadsheet is updated, the email is drafted, and it's just sitting there in your outbox waiting for your final nod.
Wow.
So today, we are taking a really deep dive into a dispatch from June 2026 that claims this is, well, it's no longer just some sci-fi concept video that tech companies show off. It is the literal operational blueprint for the new Windows.
Which is, it is a complete inversion of how we have thought about computing for the last, 40 years?
At least 40 years, yeah.
Right. We're moving from a world where we command the machine to do the heavy lifting, step by step, to a world where we simply declare our intent and the machine figures out all the granular steps on its own.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if this is true, the stakes are just almost unimaginably high for anyone whose entire professional life basically lives inside a laptop.
Absolutely. Everyone who works at a desk, really.
Exactly. We're diving into this massive tectonic shift in human-computer interaction. And it's all based on an incredible piece of analysis from an author named Paramendra.
Right, Paramendra.
And, this author isn't just someone reviewing the latest keyboard layouts on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you look at the catalog of his work titles like Lumina AI, The Trillion-Dollar Sun, or The Convergence Age, and his theories on the impending age of abundance. This is a thinker who really analyzes the macroeconomic scale of where technology is dragging the human race.
Which is exactly why we need to pay very close attention when he points to a specific software keynote and just starts ringing the alarm bell. He's analyzing the announcements from the Microsoft Build 2026 conference in San Francisco. And the core premise he takes away is that Satya Nadella has fundamentally dismantled Windows as a traditional operating system, right? And rebuilt it into this, and I'm quoting here, agentic AI-first computing paradigm.
Agentic AI-first computing paradigm. It is a total mouthful.
It really is.
But, the central question we are exploring for you today is basically this. Is the personal computer the desktop environment we have known and loved, or, let's be honest, sometimes really hated? Is it completely dead?
That's the big question.
Has it just been replaced by a completely new kind of brain?
To really grasp the magnitude of that question, I think we have to look at the historical comparisons being made in this article.
Right, because he goes big right out of the gate.
He really does. The piece opens with these massive quotes from tech enthusiasts who were actually in the room during that keynote. People are openly declaring this is bigger than Windows 95, and this is bigger than when the iPhone hit the market.
Bigger than the iPhone is basically the tech industry equivalent of saying you've discovered fire.
Exactly. It's the ultimate hyperbole.
It really is.
Yeah.
But the author suggests that something profound actually is underway here, something that, really warrants that level of historical weight.
Yes, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, if we are going to evaluate if this is truly bigger than Windows 95, we really need to strip away the nostalgia. We have to look at what those previous milestones actually changed on a structural level.
Right. So let's rewind a bit. Let's go to the era just before Windows 95. What was the actual state of computing back then?
Oh, it was brutal. It was a fundamentally hostile environment for the average person.
Just a black screen, right?
Yeah, a dark screen with a blinking cursor. MS-DOS. If you didn't know the exact syntax, the exact string of text to type, the computer was basically a very expensive paperweight on your desk.
You literally had to learn the machine's language just to make it do anything. Right, you were basically translating your human intent into strict machine code just to, copy a floppy disk.
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
And then Windows 95 arrives, and it brings the graphical user interface, the GUI, to the absolute masses.
And that changed everything.
It really did. Suddenly, you don't need to know the code for a directory path. You just see a little yellow folder icon.
Right.
You want to move a file, you literally click it and drag it across the screen. It took all the abstract logic of a computer and mapped it onto physical, real-world metaphors that human brains, already intuitively understand. understood.
A desktop, a trash can, a file folder.
Exactly. It democratized computing. It turned the PC from this highly specialized mathematical tool into a visual workspace for everyone.
And then, jumping forward, you get to 2007, the iPhone.
Right, the next big leap.
That took the visual workspace,
Yeah.
blew up the concept of the mouse entirely, and made it tactile. You're actually touching the interface.
Which was revolutionary on its own.
Totally. It introduced the app ecosystem, and it shrunk the entire internet into a pocketable device. But notice the through line here.
The interface.
Yes, both Windows 95 and the iPhone were massive leaps in interface. They changed how we touch and how we see the digital world, but they really didn't change the underlying power dynamic.
I'm tracking with you. I mean, the user is still doing all the actual driving.
Let me try an analogy to see if I'm getting the difference here for you and for the listener.
Yeah.
Imagine the traditional desktop environment is like a massive, incredibly well-stocked, but fully manual library.
Okay, I like that.
You walk in, and if you want an answer to a question, you have to find the card catalog, walk down the specific aisle, pull the actual book, read the chapters yourself, find the exact data point, and then write down your own summary on a notepad.
Right, you're doing all the labor.
You have access to the knowledge of the gods, essentially, but you have to do all the manual legwork to extract any real value from it.
That is a perfect encapsulation of the GUI era. I mean, you are the one walking the aisles. You launch the app, you open the file, you copy the text, you paste it somewhere else.
You're doing the busy work.
Exactly. You are essentially a micromanager of digital tasks. Every single step requires your physical input.
So if I'm taking this new agentic concept correctly, Satya Nadella isn't just giving us like a faster pair of running shoes to sprint down those library aisles.
No, not at all.
He is proposing a shift to a library where you walk in, you sit down in a plush armchair, and a whole team of postdoc research assistants is just waiting for you.
I love this analogy.
You tell them, I need a summary of last quarter's financials, and they literally run off, find the books, do the math, and hand you the finished report. You become a manager of outcomes, not a manager of microsteps.
Precisely. And that transition, moving from GUI to autonomous agents, that is exactly why the comparisons to 1995 and 2007 aren't just hype.
It's a structural shift.
It really is. We are moving from direct manipulation to delegation. But what's really fascinating here is how this completely breaks the mental model we've relied on for decades.
Oh, totally. It shatters it.
We are so deeply conditioned to think in terms of apps. And this brings us to one of the most provocative concepts to come out of that keynote, which is Project Solara.
Yes, Project Solara. Okay, this is the part of the article that genuinely gave me pause when I was reading it.
It's wild, right?
It is. The vision here is a new class of agent-first devices that, and this is a, quote, move beyond traditional apps entirely.
Beyond apps.
Beyond traditional apps. I mean, that feels like saying we're moving beyond traditional steering wheels in cars.
Yeah.
How do we even use a computer without apps? Are we just talking to an omnipotent blank screen? Doesn't that remove all the control users are used to having?
It is terrifying if you are clinging to the old paradigm, for sure, but we really need to look critically at what an app actually is today.
Okay, let's break that down.
Functionally, an app is an isolated silo. It's a walled garden of functionality. Your contacts live in one app, your family photos are locked in another, your work spreadsheets are in a third.
And none of them talk to each other cleanly.
No, almost never.
I mean, think about it. If I need to schedule a meeting based on an email I just got, I have to read the email, manually highlight and copy the date, open the calendar app, paste the date in, generate a Zoom link, copy that link, open Slack, find the specific person, and paste the link into a message.
It's exhausting just hearing you describe it.
I'm literally doing the physical labor of connecting two pieces of software that actively refuse to communicate directly with each other.
Which means, in the current computing paradigm, you are acting as a human API.
Oh, wow. I hate how accurate that is.
It's true.
I am just a meat-based router for data between different programs.
Exactly. You are performing the low-level, repetitive, busy work that a machine should theoretically be able to handle on its own. And that's what Project Solara is trying to solve.
Okay, so how does it do that?
It suggests an environment where the agent operates across the entire system simultaneously. It understands the holistic context of your work without forcing you to open a spreadsheet, then open a browser, then open a word processor.
So the apps are just gone.
Well, the underlying capabilities of those programs still exist, right? The computer still needs an engine to calculate numbers or render text. But the arbitrary, visible walls between them, those are dissolved.
Well, wait, let's play out the industry implications of that.
Yeah.
Because if the GUI goes away and I am not clicking on a green Excel icon anymore, what happens to the entire software economy?
That is a huge, huge problem for developers.
Right. The last 20 years have literally been defined by the phrase, there's an app for that. If there are no apps, how does a software developer even make money?
They're all trying to figure that out right now.
Am I buying a discrete software package anymore, or am I just buying like a financial forecasting skill that plugs into my central Windows agent? Doesn't the death of the app mean the death of the independent software vendor as we know it?
That is the trillion-dollar question, and it is exactly why the industry is reeling from this announcement. If the interface is abstracted away by a central Microsoft agent, the independent developer loses their direct relationship with the user.
They lose the brand recognition.
Completely. You don't open Spotify or Salesforce anymore. You just tell your PC, play some focus music, or update the client file.
Wow.
The developers behind those services, they become invisible utility providers. They become plumbing.
They supply the water, but Microsoft owns the faucet.
Right. And that is a massive power consolidation on Microsoft's part. But from the user's perspective, the friction of context switching completely vanishes.
Which does sound amazing.
It's incredible. If you want a photo of your dog to look like a vintage Polaroid and sent to your mom, you don't open an editor, import the photo, apply the filter, export it, open mail, attach it, and click send.
You just tell it what you want.
Exactly. You just state the intent.
Yeah.
The agent figures out which background utilities to invoke to get it done.
Okay, the utopian vision of hyper-productivity there sounds incredible.
Yeah.
But let's ground this in reality for a second.
Let's do it.
Because my immediate reaction to an omnipresent agent touching all my files is sheer panic.
Oh, absolutely.
If my device is no longer using siloed apps, and one central entity is reading my private emails, looking at my messy desktop, and formulating responses, that agent basically has my entire life in its hands.
It does. I mean, giving an AI agency literally means giving it the power to execute actions on your behalf.
Right. And what happens when it makes a mistake? One hallucination, one misunderstood prompt, and it decides the best way to quote-unquote clean up my hard drive is to permanently delete my System32 folder and wipe out my wedding photos.
A total disaster.
If we are moving away from manual save and delete buttons, how on earth is Microsoft preventing these agents from going rogue and destroying our digital lives?
This is the absolute crux of the engineering challenge here. You have to balance deep system-wide access with unbreakable security. And Microsoft is backing this up with two foundational pieces of architecture mentioned in the dispatch: native OpenClaw integration and something called Microsoft Execution Containers, or MXC.
Right. The article mentions those. And the demo from the keynote specifically showed agents attempting complex tasks but being actively blocked from doing anything destructive, like indiscriminately deleting files.
Yes, exactly.
But how does that actually work mechanically? Because honestly, execution container just sounds like corporate speak for a firewall.
It's much, much more sophisticated than a simple firewall. What's fascinating here is that an MXC doesn't just watch the AI and hope it behaves.
Okay, so what does it do?
When you give the agent a command, say, organize my tax documents and throw away the duplicates, the agent formulates a plan. But it doesn't execute that plan on your actual live file system.
Wait, really?
Right. The kernel actually spins up a shadow clone of your environment inside the MXC sandbox.
A shadow clone. So it's basically working on a fake copy of my computer.
Essentially, yes. It's an ephemeral, virtualized space. The agent does all its sorting, all its moving, all its deleting inside this shadow environment.
Oh, wow. So it thinks it's doing the real thing.
Exactly. It thinks it has full control. And this is where OpenClaw comes in. OpenClaw acts as the bouncer at the door back to the real operating system.
Okay, I love this analogy. So the bouncer is checking the ID of every single action the agent wants to finalize.
Exactly. Before that shadow environment is allowed to merge its changes with your actual hard drive, OpenClaw evaluates the compiled actions against strict deterministic system rules.
Deterministic meaning it's not guessing.
Right. There is no AI guesswork in OpenClaw. If it sees that the agent's plan includes a delete command targeting an original file that wasn't explicitly flagged by you as a duplicate, OpenClaw simply kills the process.
Wow.
The action fails before it ever touches your real data. The agent is incredibly powerful, but it is operating inside a padded room.
That distinction between deterministic rules and probabilistic AI is so crucial. The AI is a guessing machine, and it might guess wrong.
It often does guess wrong.
Right. But OpenClaw is a hard-coded, zero-tolerance rule engine.
Yes. And this brings up a really important definition we need to clarify for the listeners. We keep using the word agentic, but we really need to distinguish it from the AI most people are used to right now.
Right, because right now my experience with AI is a chatbot. I open a browser, I ask it a question, it types out a recipe or a summary, and that's it. It's just a conversation.
Right, a chatbot is passive. It is fundamentally a highly advanced text prediction engine.
It just talks.
Exactly. An agentic system is entirely different. An agent is a software entity that possesses reasoning capabilities to break down a large goal into smaller sequential steps.
It plans.
It plans, and critically, it has the authority to execute those steps using the system APIs, governed by those MXC guardrails we just talked about.
That is a huge difference.
It's the difference between an advisor who gives you a recipe and a personal chef who actually walks into your kitchen, chops the onions, cooks the meal, and serves it to you.
I mean, that sounds incredible. But hold on. Let's think about the infrastructure for a second. If this agent is acting like a personal chef in my digital kitchen, it means it's watching everything I do.
Every single thing.
It's reading my screen context, it's indexing my messy desktop, parsing my half-written drafts, and listening for my commands 24/7.
It has to, in order to be a useful collaborator. It desperately needs context.
But the computing power required for that is just astronomical.
Oh, it's massive.
If every time I ask my computer to organize my files, it has to package up all my personal data, stream it up to a massive cloud server farm, wait for a giant AI model to process it, and send the instructions back down, I mean, that falls apart instantly.
It completely collapses.
Cloud latency will kill the experience. If I have to wait 4 seconds every time I ask it to move a window, I'm going back to a mouse immediately.
You've just identified the fundamental bottleneck of the last 10 years of the cloud computing era.
Right.
And it's honestly why the traditional PC market has been largely stagnant. We've been treating our laptops like dumb panes of glass that just connect to smart servers.
Right. We just use them as web browsers.
Right.
Relying on cloud AI is like, well, it's like having to take a taxi every time you need to go to the grocery store.
Sure, great way to put it.
It is heavily metered. You are paying for the distance, in this case, server compute costs, and the driver sees absolutely everything you buy. It's slow, it's expensive, and the privacy implications are terrible.
Which is why the architectural shift happening here is so critical. Here's where it gets really interesting. The reinvention of Windows isn't just a software patch. It is tied directly to a massive hardware renaissance.
Hardware, so we're talking physical chips.
Exactly. Microsoft is partnering with silicon designers like Qualcomm and NVIDIA to completely change what is actually inside the laptop on your desk.
This is the push toward, the article called it unmetered local intelligence.
Unmetered agentic AI models, yes.
To stick with the metaphor, running local AI on these new chips is like finally owning the car. You bought the engine, the gas is essentially free because you plug it into your wall, and the windows are heavily tinted. Nobody is watching you drive.
That's right. Let's break down why that hardware shift is non-negotiable for an agentic future. It basically comes down to 3 things: latency, economics, and privacy.
Okay, let's take those one by one. Latency first.
First, latency. By moving the AI processing off the cloud and onto a specialized piece of silicon on your motherboard, an NPU, or neural processing unit, the agent's responses become instantaneous.
Because it's right there.
Right. It isn't pinging a server in Virginia to figure out what is on your screen. It is doing the math locally. The feedback loop is measured in milliseconds. It feels native.
And the economics. I mean, that word unmetered is huge.
It changes the whole business model.
In the cloud world, we are so used to software as a service. We pay by the drip. Every API call, every token generated, it costs a fraction of a cent in electricity and cooling at some massive data center.
Now think about an agent. If a background agent is constantly analyzing your screen 60 frames a second to understand your workflow context, it would generate billions of queries a day.
Billions.
The cloud compute bill for a single user would just bankrupt Microsoft. But if the model runs locally on your Qualcomm chip, the compute is a sunk cost.
You already bought the laptop.
Exactly. You are providing the wall power. The agent can think, index, and analyze constantly in the background without racking up a massive server bill. It completely upends the SaaS pricing model.
Which honestly solves the most terrifying aspect of all of this for me.
Oh.
The privacy nightmare.
Oh. This is the most important part.
If this PC is going to be my intimate collaborator, it has to read my financial spreadsheets, it has to index my family photos, it has to read the angry drafts of emails I write but never actually send.
The really private stuff.
Right. The only way consumers, let alone massive enterprise companies, will ever accept that level of surveillance is if they have physical proof that the data never leaves the device.
The local sandbox is the absolute only viable path to trust here. The intelligence is downloaded to your machine once, and then it learns from your highly sensitive private data entirely within that local MXC container.
It never phones home.
It never beams your life up to a corporate mothership for training.
So the buyer's calculus completely changes. If I'm buying a new laptop next year, I'm not just looking at RAM and hard drive space anymore.
No, those are secondary now.
I'm looking at the capacity of the local AI processor. The actual intelligence lives in the silicon on my desk.
Exactly. And that is why this is an existential bet for Microsoft. For the last decade, the PC has been slowly, losing ground to the smartphone and the web browser.
It became the boring work machine.
Right. Nadella is betting that the future still requires a heavy-duty, hyper-intelligent machine sitting right in front of you.
Okay, so the foundation is laid. We have the localized NPU hardware. We have the MXC security containers with the OpenClaw bouncer, and we are moving away from siloed apps.
The pieces are all there.
So who is actually building the tools for this ecosystem? Because obviously Microsoft can't write every single automation script themselves. They need an army of developers.
They do, and they know it, and that's where Microsoft Scout comes in.
Right, Scout. The article talks about this.
It's described in the text as an autopilot-style assistant for productivity, but honestly, more importantly, it is the introduction of an entirely new developer ecosystem.
So it's an API shift.
Yeah.
Because if I am a developer, I'm no longer building a standalone executable program with a nice graphical interface. I'm building a capability or a skill that plugs directly into Scout.
Yes. Just like Windows 95 provided the SDK for developers to easily build GUI windows, and the iPhone provided the tools for mobile touch apps, Windows is now providing the deep system APIs for developers to build, secure, and deploy specialized agents.
Let's visualize how this actually looks in the real world, maybe in an enterprise setting. Because, this isn't just about me asking my computer to summarize a PDF for a podcast.
Not at all. It scales way beyond that. Imagine a massive pharmaceutical company, right? Okay.
Their researchers are dealing with petabytes of highly sensitive, localized data. Chemical compounds, patient trial histories, genetic sequences.
Stuff you do not want on the public cloud.
Exactly. They don't just want a generic chatbot.
Yeah.
They want to use these new Windows APIs to build a highly specialized proprietary research agent.
Right, and because it's local hardware and MXC sandbox, they don't have to worry about patient HIPAA compliance or, leaking their billion-dollar patent data to a public cloud model.
Exactly. So they deployed this custom agent onto the local Windows machines of all their scientists. Now, think about the workflow.
Okay.
Instead of the scientists spending 40 hours a week manually cross-referencing spreadsheets to find a correlation between a chemical structure and a side effect, they just tell their agent continuously run anomaly detection across all phase 2 trial data against this new compound structure and alert me if you find a statistical cluster.
Wow. And the agent just does it. The agent operates autonomously in the background, interacting with local databases, crunching the heavy numbers on the NPU, and eventually delivering the outcome.
It accelerates the pace of discovery exponentially because all the friction of data management is just automated away.
Exactly.
Or think about a law firm, a custom legal agent that can ingest 100,000 pages of discovery documents overnight, completely locally, and build a chronological timeline of events based on specific keyword intent.
It changes the whole industry.
It's insane. Rather than a paralegal doing keyword searches one by one for weeks.
It repositions Windows entirely. It was in real danger of becoming just the boring plumbing you need to run a Chrome browser.
Yeah, just a bootloader for Chrome.
Right. But now, Satya Nadella has positioned it as the premier non-negotiable platform for deploying secure local AI automation. If you are an enterprise that wants to scale agentic workflows, you basically need this infrastructure.
It is a brilliant strategic maneuver. Let's pump the brakes for a second.
Fair enough.
Because we have painted a very rosy utopian picture of frictionless productivity here.
We have.
But the tech industry is basically built on the graves of overhyped promises. I'm thinking about voice assistants a decade ago that were supposed to change the world, and mostly we just use them to set cooking timers.
The skepticism is incredibly warranted. I mean, the author's analysis doesn't ignore the massive hurdles here.
Right.
The biggest one being the issue of AI slop.
Yes, AI slop. It is such a visceral, accurate term.
We all know it when we see it.
We are all deeply familiar with it by now. It's the AI-generated text that sounds incredibly confident, but is factually hollow. It's the code that looks clean, but contains a logic bomb that crashes your whole system.
It's the spreadsheet summary that hallucinates an extra 0 on a revenue report.
Exactly. And the reliability threshold for an autonomous agent is vastly higher than for a chatbot.
Oh, orders of magnitude higher.
Right? If a chatbot gives you a slightly wrong answer, you read it, you see the error, and you manually correct it before you paste it. But if an agent is operating autonomously, executing actions across your system while you aren't looking, it has to be 99.99% reliable.
Right, because the blast radius of a mistake is so much bigger.
Because if my, autopilot for productivity hallucinates a financial merger in a board report and automatically emails it to my executive team while I'm getting coffee, that's not a productivity game. That's a career-ending disaster.
You'd be fired instantly.
Instantly. If I have to spend 3 hours forensically proofreading the AI's work to make sure it didn't invent a number, I haven't saved any time at all. I've just replaced the work of writing with the work of auditing.
That is the exact trap of AI slop. And frankly, it's the reason previous attempts at building agents over the last couple of years have largely failed.
So basically, earlier AI startups were trying to glue a smart steering wheel onto a horse.
That's a pretty good visual, yeah.
It was a superficial software layer trying to hack a legacy system.
Yeah.
So with all this talk of slop and reliability issues, why should we believe that Microsoft has actually solved the problem and, as the author claims, rung the bell for a new era?
This raises an important question, and the difference here is exactly what we were just talking about.
Oh.
The scale of the integration. They aren't gluing on a steering wheel. They're fundamentally redesigning the engine itself.
The kernel-level integration.
Yes. When a startup promised an agent in 2024, it was just an app sitting on top of an OS that actively fought against it.
Right.
It was trying to use a remote cloud API to visually read your screen, basically looking at pixels, and guess where the submit button was. It was incredibly fragile. If a website updated its layout by 2 pixels, the agent completely broke.
But Microsoft owns the entire stack now.
They control the hardware partnerships with the silicon vendors. They control the MXC security containers baked directly into the deepest level of the OS. They control the native APIs that developers use to declare their software's capabilities.
So it's not guessing anymore.
No, the agent isn't guessing where a button is by looking at pixels. It is communicating directly with the underlying data structures of the machine.
So it's not a patch. It's a completely new foundation built specifically to make digital autonomy safe and deterministic.
That holistic top-to-bottom approach is what gives this announcement real weight against the typical hype cycle. They have essentially rebuilt the entire factory.
Man, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, unpacking this massive shift.
It really went deep.
We started by exploring the historical gravity, looking at how moving from GUI to autonomous agents mirrors the leap from command line interfaces to Windows 95.
That massive paradigm shift.
Right. We broke down the mental barrier of Project Solara, visualizing a world where the siloed app store basically dies and you, the user, stop having to act as a manual human API.
Which I think we are all ready for. And then we dug into the rigorous engineering required to make that actually safe, looking at how the MXC sandboxes spin up those shadow clones of your data, and how OpenClaw acts as the deterministic bouncer to prevent the AI from destroying your system.
We looked at the economics of the hardware renaissance, transitioning from metered, privacy-invasive cloud taxi rides to owning the unmetered, highly secure local MPU silicon right on your desk.
A total game changer for privacy.
Absolutely. And finally, we confronted the realities of AI slop, understanding why Microsoft's kernel-level integration might just be the only way to build a reliable engine for the future of enterprise automation.
The PC has been fundamentally reborn. It really is no longer just a passive tool waiting for your micromanagement. It is a dynamic, intelligent collaborator.
So what does this all mean for you?
I think it leaves us with a final thought to really mull over. If our personal computers are truly transitioning into entities that act on our behalf, that learn our deep context, understand the nuances of our workflows, and anticipate our daily needs, at what point does your PC stop being just a machine and start becoming a digital extension of your own identity?
That's heavy.
When the device on your desk knows how you work better than you do, how will you manage a collaborator that is always one step ahead of you?
It is an incredible, slightly terrifying, but undeniably wild frontier.
Oh.
Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the agentic future. Until next time, stay insanely curious.